Danny Cole was 28 years old when he got the message that changed his life. He was sitting in his small apartment in Nevada, eating cheap noodles and watching the rain hit the window. His phone buzzed. The caller ID showed a number he did not know. Danny almost ignored it, but something made him answer. "Mr. Cole?" The voice was strange, almost mechanical. "This is the Galactic Inheritance Bureau. We are calling to inform you that you are the sole heir to the estate of your uncle, Henry Cole." Danny put down his noodles. His uncle Henry had left Earth 30 years ago. Danny had been a baby then. He had never met the man. His mother used to say that Henry was crazy, that he had gone to space chasing dreams and left his family behind. Danny had grown up thinking of his uncle as a ghost, someone who existed only in old photographs. "My uncle is dead?" Danny asked. "Yes, Mr. Cole. He passed away 3 months ago. His estate includes a vessel currently docked at Station Meridian. As his only living relative, the vessel now belongs to you. A ship." His crazy uncle had left him a ship. Danny spent the next 2 weeks selling everything he owned. His car, his furniture, his tools. It was not much, but it was enough to buy passage to Station Meridian. His friends told him he was making a mistake. His boss told him he was throwing away his job. Danny did not care. For the first time in years, he felt something close to hope. Station Meridian was a trading hub 3 jumps from Earth. It was loud and crowded and full of aliens that Danny had only seen in pictures. He walked through the crowds with his small bag over his shoulder, following the directions the Inheritance Bureau had given him. The docking bay was at the far end of the station. A 4-armed alien stood at the entrance, checking a tablet. His skin was gray, and his eyes were yellow. Danny showed him the inheritance documents. "Ah, the human," the alien said. His name tag read Chris. "You are here for the Wandering Star." "That's right." Chris made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Come with me. I will show you what you have inherited." They walked through the docking bay, past ships of every size and shape. Some were sleek and new. Others were battered from years of travel. But nothing prepared Danny for what he saw at the end. The Wandering Star was massive. It stretched nearly 1,000 meters from front to back. But it looked like it had been through a war. The hull was covered in scorch marks and rust. Whole sections were dark and dead. Cables hung loose from open panels. It was less a ship and more a corpse. "Your uncle bought this wreck 23 years ago," Chris said. "Paid almost nothing for it. Everyone thought he was mad. The ship is Zarth class, very old design. Maybe 400 years. No one builds them anymore. No one knows how to fix them." Danny stared at the ship. His heart sank. Did my uncle ever get it running? He tried. He spent his whole life trying. He died aboard it, alone in the dark. Chris handed Danny a small device. "These are the access codes. The ship has been sealed since his death. No one has gone inside." Danny took the device. He looked at the ship again. It was broken and old and probably worthless. But it was his. The only thing his uncle had left him. "Thank you," Danny said. "I will take it from here." The airlock groaned when Danny opened it. The air inside was stale and cold. His flashlight cut through the darkness, showing corridors covered in dust. Danny stepped inside and felt the ship around him, huge and silent and waiting. He walked for hours. The ship was a maze of corridors and rooms and chambers. Some doors opened when he touched them. Others were sealed shut. He found storage rooms filled with alien equipment he could not name. He found a kitchen, a medical bay, sleeping quarters with beds twice the size of any human bed. His uncle had lived here. Danny found traces of him everywhere. Tools left on workbenches. Notes written in shaky handwriting. Empty food containers piled in corners. Henry Cole had spent 23 years in this ship, working alone, trying to bring it back to life. Danny felt something strange in his chest. Sadness, maybe. Or respect. He had never known his uncle, but now he was walking through the man's life, seeing the evidence of his struggle. It was late when Danny found the chamber. He had gone deeper into the ship than he meant to. The corridors here were different. The walls were lined with strange pods, each one about the size of a coffin, covered in frost. Most of them were broken. Their glass fronts were shattered, their insides dark and empty. But 7 of them were intact. Danny walked to the nearest pod. He wiped the frost from the glass with his sleeve. His flashlight showed what was inside. A girl. She was not human. Her skin was pale blue, like the sky on a winter morning. Her hair was silver and long. Her ears came to slight points. She looked young, maybe 18 or 20, though Danny had no way to know how aliens aged. Her eyes were closed. Her chest moved slowly up and down. She was alive. She was sleeping. Danny moved to the next pod. Another girl, this one with green scales that covered her skin like armor. The next held a girl with 4 eyes and delicate wings folded against her back. The next had copper-colored fur and small horns curving from her temples. 7 pods. 7 girls. 7 different species. Danny stood in the center of the chamber, his flashlight moving from pod to pod. His mind was racing. Who were these girls? How long had they been here? Why had his uncle never woken them? He found a console near the pods. It was covered in alien writing he could not read, but he saw symbols, buttons, indicators. One of them looked like the universal sign for power. Danny pressed it. Nothing happened. The ship was dead. Without power, the console could not work. Without the console, the pods could not open. The girls were trapped, frozen between life and death, waiting for someone to set them free. Danny sat down on the cold floor. He looked at the pods around him. 7 girls who needed help. A ship that was broken beyond repair. An uncle who had tried and failed for 23 years. He should give up. He should sell the ship for scrap, take whatever money he could get, and go back to Earth. That was the smart thing to do. That was what anyone with sense would do. But Danny Cole had never been very good at giving up. He stood up. He looked at the blue-skinned girl in the nearest pod. He did not know her name. He did not know anything about her. But she was alive, and she was trapped, and that meant she needed help. "I'm going to get you out of there," Danny said. "I don't know how. I don't know how long it will take. But I'm going to figure it out." The girl did not answer. She could not hear him. But Danny made the promise anyway, to her and to the others and to himself. He turned and walked back through the ship, his flashlight cutting through the darkness. He had work to do. Danny spent 3 weeks learning how the ship worked. He started with the basics. He traced every cable and wire he could find. He opened every panel and looked inside. He drew maps of the corridors on paper, marking which sections had power and which were dead. The wandering star was like a giant puzzle, and Danny attacked it piece by piece. The main reactor was in the center of the ship. It was huge, bigger than a house, made of metal that Danny had never seen before. He could tell it was not broken. The fuel cell still had some charge. The problem was the control systems. The computers that ran the reactor were filled with corrupted data. Without working software, the reactor could not start safely. Danny had worked with computers before. On Earth, he had fixed old machines for a living. He had taught himself to code when he was a teenager, learning from books and videos and trial and error. But this was different. This was alien technology, hundreds of years old, written in a language he could not read. He started small. He found a simple program that controlled the lights in one corridor. He studied it for days, comparing the alien symbols to the results, trying to understand what each command meant. Slowly, he built a dictionary. One symbol meant power. Another meant stop. Another meant repeat. It was slow work. It was frustrating. Danny spent hours staring at screens, trying to understand code that made no sense to him. His eyes hurt. His back hurt. He slept on the floor of the engineering bay, eating ration bars he had brought from the station. But every night, he visited the pod chamber. He talked to the sleeping girls. He told them about his progress. He told them about his life on Earth, about his mother who had raised him alone, about the jobs he had worked, about the dreams he had given up. He knew they could not hear him, but talking made him feel less alone. "I'm getting closer," he said to the blue-skinned girl on the 15th night. "I figured out how the reactor controls work. I just need to rewrite the startup sequence. Maybe another week." She did not answer. She never did. But Danny kept talking anyway. On the 23rd day, he was ready. Danny stood at the main console in the engineering bay. His hands were shaking. He had rewritten over 2,000 lines of code. He had tested every part of the startup sequence. He had checked and double-checked his work. But there was no way to know for sure if it would work until he tried. He pressed the activation button. For a moment, nothing happened. The ship was silent. Danny's heart pounded in his chest. Then the reactor hummed. It was a low sound at first, deep and steady, like a heartbeat. The hum grew louder. Lights flickered on around him. More lights came on in the corridor outside. Then more, spreading outward through the ship like a wave. The wandering star was waking up. Danny ran. He sprinted through the corridors, watching as the ship came alive around him. Systems powered on. Ventilation fans started spinning. Screens lit up with alien text. The ship had been dead for years, but now it was breathing again. He reached the pod chamber. The consoles were glowing now, displaying information he could almost understand. Danny found what looked like a release sequence. He checked it twice, 3 times, making sure he understood what each command would do. He activated it. The first pod hissed. Frost fell from the glass as the lid began to open. Danny held his breath. The blue-skinned girl's eyes moved beneath her eyelids. Her fingers twitched. Then her eyes opened, and she gasped, drawing air into her lungs like someone coming up from deep water. She looked around, confused and scared. Her eyes found Danny, and she froze. "It's okay," Danny said quickly. He held up his hands to show he was not a threat. "You're safe. My name is Danny. I own this ship now." The girl tried to speak, but her voice was rough. She coughed. Danny found a water bottle in his bag and offered it to her. She drank slowly, never taking her eyes off him. "Who are you?" she finally asked. Her voice was like music, soft and clear. "I told you. My name is Danny Cole. My uncle left me this ship when he died. I found you and the others in these pods. I've been trying to wake you up. You are human." "Yes," she stared at him. "Humans are new to space. Your technology is primitive. How did you repair this ship?" Danny shrugged. "I'm good at fixing things." He helped her out of the pod. Her legs were weak from years of sleep. She held onto his arm as she found her balance. Then she looked at the other pods. "The others," she said. "Can you wake them too?" "I think so." One by one, Danny opened the remaining pods. 6 more girls woke from their long sleep. Each one was confused and scared. Each one looked at Danny with a mix of fear and hope. They gathered in the center of the chamber. Danny gave them all water and ration bars. He watched them eat. These 7 alien girls who had been trapped in sleep for centuries. The blue-skinned girl was named Lyris. She came from a water world far from Earth. The green-scaled girl was Syra, a species called Sithani. The winged girl was Vera, a scout from a planet of flyers. The furred girl with horns was Mira, a Talori warrior. The others were Xena, with skin like the night sky, Plix, small and delicate with glowing patterns on her skin, and Hala, tall and strong with scars on her arms. "How long have we been asleep?" Lyris asked. Danny checked the console. According to the ship's records, the stasis pods were activated 312 years ago. The girls went quiet. Danny watched the truth hit them. 300 years. Everything they had known was gone. Their families, their friends, their worlds. All of it had moved on without them. Vera's wings trembled. 3 centuries. My people live only 80 years. Everyone I knew is dead. My mother, Plix whispered. My sisters. They waited for me. They must have waited. Danny did not know what to say. He could not imagine what they were feeling. To wake up and find that the world had left you behind. To know that everyone you loved had lived and died while you slept. I'm sorry, he said. It was not enough. Nothing could be enough. Mira looked at him. Her golden eyes were hard, but Danny saw pain behind them. Why did you wake us? You could have left us sleeping forever. Because you're alive, Danny said. Because you were trapped. Because it was the right thing to do. You do not know us. We are strangers. We are aliens. That doesn't matter. You needed help. I could help. So I did. The girls looked at each other. Something passed between them. A silent conversation that Danny could not follow. Finally, Lyris spoke. We have nowhere to go. Our homes are centuries away in time. We are lost. Then stay here, Danny said. The wandering star is big enough for all of us. We can figure out what happened to you. We can find answers. Together. Why would you offer us this? Xena asked. What do you want from us? Danny thought about it. He thought about his uncle, who had spent his life trying to save 7 strangers. He thought about his own life on Earth, lonely and small and going nowhere. I want to help, he said. And maybe, if you want, we could be something like a family. The word hung in the air. Family. It was a big word, a heavy word. Danny did not know if he had the right to say it, but Lyris smiled. It was a small smile, tired and sad, but real. A family, she said. I think we would like that. The others nodded slowly. One by one, they agreed. Danny felt something warm in his chest, something he had not felt in a long time. He was not alone anymore. None of them were. The wandering star drifted through space, its lights glowing in the darkness. Inside, a human and 7 alien girls sat together, sharing food and water and the beginning of something new. It was not much, but it was a start. The weeks passed slowly aboard the wandering star. Danny worked every day to repair the ship. There was so much to fix. The hull had holes that needed to be sealed. The life support systems needed new filters. The engines needed fuel and maintenance. It was endless work, but Danny did not mind. He had always been good with his hands. The girls helped where they could. Lyris was clever with machines. She watched Danny work and quickly learned to assist him. Vera knew how to read the star maps, which helped them plan where to go next. Myra was strong. She could lift equipment that would have taken Danny hours to move with tools. The others found their own ways to help. Xena studied the ship's records, trying to learn what had happened in the 3 centuries they had missed. Plix was good at finding small problems before they became big ones. Hala kept watch, always alert, always ready for danger. Sira worked in the kitchen, figuring out how to make the strange alien food taste better. They learned to live together. It was not always easy. They came from different worlds with different customs. Sometimes they argued. Sometimes they did not understand each other. But slowly, day by day, they became a crew. Danny often sat with them in the evenings, after the work was done. They asked him questions about Earth, about humans, about the galaxy as it was now. He answered as best he could. "Your species is very young," Xena told him one night. They were in the observation room, watching the stars drift past the window. "Humans have only been in space for 60 years. That is nothing compared to the older races. Is that bad?" Danny asked. "Not bad. Just different." Xena paused. Her skin seemed to absorb the starlight, making her look like a piece of the sky itself. "The older races have stopped trying new things. They do what they have always done. But humans are different. You are still curious. You still take risks." Danny thought about that. On Earth, he had never felt special. He was just a mechanic from Nevada, a nobody who fixed broken things for a living. But out here, being human seemed to mean something. The ship's records told them pieces of the story. The wandering star had once belonged to a collector, a wealthy alien named Tarvos. He had traveled the galaxy looking for rare and beautiful things. He had gathered art, artifacts, technology, and people. "He took us from our homes," Lyra said quietly. She was reading from a log entry on one of the screens. "He said we were his treasures. He put us in pods so we would stay young and perfect forever. He was going to sell some of us," Myra added. Her voice was hard. "To other collectors. We were property to him. Nothing more." Danny felt sick. "What happened to him?" "Pirates attacked the ship," Hala said. She had found records of the battle in the security logs. "Tarvos was killed. The ship was damaged. It drifted for decades before your uncle found it." "My uncle," Danny said. "What do the logs say about him?" Plix pulled up the records. "Henry Cole purchased the vessel from a salvage dealer 23 years ago. He spent the rest of his life trying to repair it. The logs show thousands of attempts to restart the reactor. All failed. He tried to wake us," Sarah said softly. "I remember dreams." A voice speaking in a language I did not know. He was talking to us, even though we could not hear. Danny felt tears in his eyes. His uncle had never met these girls. He had no reason to help them. But he had spent 23 years trying anyway, working alone in the dark, refusing to give up. He couldn't figure out the code, Danny said. The software was too corrupted. But he kept trying until the day he died. "And then you came," Lyra said. "And you finished what he started." Danny shook his head. "I just got lucky. I had fresh eyes. I wasn't tired from years of trying." "No," Myra said. "It was not luck. You worked harder than anyone I have ever seen. You did not eat. You did not sleep. You gave everything to save us." She looked at him with something close to respect. "You are not like other humans I have heard about." Danny did not know what to say. He had never thought of himself as anything special. The repairs continued. Week by week, the wandering star became stronger. Danny replaced broken systems with parts they salvaged from abandoned stations. He taught himself new skills as he needed them. The girls watched him with growing amazement. Humans learn fast, Vera observed one day. Danny was installing a new navigation system, something he had never done before. "You make mistakes, but you correct them quickly." "We have to," Danny said. "We don't have time to be perfect. We just do the best we can and fix problems as they come." That is a strange way to live. Maybe, but it works. The wandering star was almost ready to fly when the sensors picked up the signal. Danny was in the engineering bay when Xena called him to the bridge. The others were already there, gathered around a console. On the screen was a pattern of lights, blinking in a complex sequence. "What is it?" Danny asked. "An encrypted transmission," Xena said. "The ship recognizes the encryption. It belongs to Tarvos' network. The room went silent. Danny looked at the girls. Their faces were pale. The network still exists, Lyris whispered. After 300 years, it still exists. That means others like Tarvos are still out there, Hala said. Still collecting. Still taking people. Danny traced the signal's origin. It came from a place called the Cradle, a station hidden in an asteroid field at the edge of known space. It did not appear on any official maps. This is where he brought us, Syrah said. Her scales had turned a darker shade of green, a sign of fear. Before we were put in the pods, this is where he showed us to his buyers. Danny stared at the screen. Somewhere out there, a station full of slavers was still operating. Still taking people from their homes. Still treating living beings like property. We have to do something, Plick said. Her patterns were glowing brighter, reflecting her emotions. We cannot just ignore this. It's not our fight, Mira said, though she did not sound convinced. We are survivors, not soldiers. It became our fight the moment we learned about it, Myra said. Her voice was firm. I was taken from my home. I lost everything. If I can stop the same thing from happening to others, I must try. The girls looked at Danny. He was the captain now, even if no one had ever said it out loud. The decision was his. Danny thought about his uncle, who had given his life trying to help strangers. He thought about the girls, who had lost centuries to a collector's greed. He thought about all the others who might be trapped in that station right now, waiting for someone to save them. We're going, he said. We're going to find out what's there. And if we can help, we will. It will be dangerous, Zena warned. We have no weapons. We have no allies. We are 8 people in an old ship against an unknown enemy. Danny smiled. It was not a happy smile, but it was determined. Then we'll have to be clever, he said. We'll have to be fast. We'll have to be the thing no one expects. And what is that? Lyris asked. Danny looked at his crew, these 7 alien girls who had become his family. He looked at the stars outside the window, endless and dark and full of danger. Human, he said. We'll have to be human. He set a course for the Cradle. The wandering star turned toward the edge of space, its engines humming with new purpose. Whatever they found there, they would face it together. The Cradle was hidden inside a dead planet. Danny guided the wandering star through the asteroid field slowly. The rocks were huge, some as big as mountains, tumbling through space in deadly patterns. Vera sat beside him, calling out directions, her 4 eyes tracking dozens of objects at once. Left, now down. Hold steady. There, between those 2. Danny followed her instructions. His hands were tight on the controls. One wrong move and they would be crushed. It took 6 hours to reach the planet. It was a dark ball of rock, split open like a broken egg. Inside the crack, lights glowed. The station. Sensors show 47 ships docked, Zena reported. Live signs number in the thousands. Guards, buyers, and prisoners. Prisoners, Lyra said quietly. Just like we were. Danny looked at the station. It was bigger than he had expected. A city hidden inside a dead world, built on suffering and cruelty. His stomach turned. Do we still have the old access codes? He asked. The ones from Tarvos's files? Yes, Syrah said. But they are 300 years old. They may not work. They might. Systems like this don't change their codes often. Too much trouble. Danny took a deep breath. Here's the plan. We dock using the old codes. I go in as a buyer. Mira comes with me as a bodyguard. The rest of you stay on the ship and monitor everything. And then what? Hala asked. I find the control center. I shut down the security systems and open the cages. We create chaos and get out while everyone is confused. That is a terrible plan, Plick said. Too many things can go wrong. I know, but it's the only plan we have. The girls looked at each other. Danny could see the fear in their eyes, but he could see something else too. Determination, anger, the need to do something, even if it was dangerous. We are with you, Lyra said. Whatever happens. Danny nodded. He turned the ship toward the station. The codes worked. Danny almost laughed when the docking bay doors opened. 300 years, and no one had thought to change the security. It was lazy, and he was grateful for it. He and Myra walked through the station. Danny wore a long coat he had found in his uncle's things. Myra walked behind him, her golden eyes watching everything. She looked dangerous, which was the point. The station was worse than Danny had imagined. Cages lined the corridors, each one holding people of different species. Some were crying. Some were silent. Some had given up hope entirely. Guards walked past them without looking, as if they were furniture instead of living beings. I want to kill them all, Myra whispered. Her hands were clenched into fists. Later, Danny said. First we have to free the prisoners. They found the control center on the upper level. It was guarded by 4 soldiers with weapons Danny did not recognize. Danny and Mira stopped around a corner to plan. Can you take them? Danny asked. Myra smiled. It was not a nice smile. Watch me. She moved faster than Danny could follow. One guard went down before he could raise his weapon. The second turned and Mira's fist met his face. The third tried to run and she caught him by the neck. The fourth fired his weapon, but Mira was already behind him. In 10 seconds, all 4 guards were on the ground. You're scary, Danny said. Thank you. They entered the control center. Danny sat at the main console and started working. The security system was complicated, but he had learned a lot in the past few weeks. He found the cage controls. He found the alarm systems. He found the locks on the docking bay doors. Okay, he said. When I press this button, every cage in the station will open. The alarms will go off. The guards will panic. In the confusion, the prisoners can escape. And we run, Myra said. And we run. Danny looked at the console. He thought about all the people in those cages. Thousands of them. Families torn apart. Lives stolen. All because someone thought they had the right to own other beings. He pressed the button. Alarms screamed. Lights flashed red. Danny heard shouting in the corridors, then screaming, then the sound of running feet. On the security screens, he watched as cage doors swung open all across the station. Prisoners poured out by the hundreds, overwhelming the guards through sheer numbers. Time to go, Myra said. They ran. The corridors were chaos. Guards tried to stop them, but other prisoners got in the way. Danny grabbed whoever he could reach, pulling them along, pointing them toward the docking bay. The ships are unlocked, he shouted. Take them and fly. Get out of here. He did not know if they understood him. He did not know if they would make it. But he had to try. They reached the wandering star with 30 other escapees crammed in behind them. Danny sealed the airlock and ran to the bridge. The others were already there, their faces pale. Go, Danny said. Full speed, now. Lyris was at the controls. She pushed the engines to maximum. The wandering star pulled away from the station, dodging other escaping ships as they scattered in every direction. Behind them, the station was dying. Fires had broken out. Ships crashed into each other as untrained pilots fought to escape. The whole structure shook and groaned. We did it, Plick said. Her voice was shaking. We actually did it. Not yet, Danny said. We need to get clear of the asteroid field. Then we need to find a safe place for our passengers. The escape was long and terrifying. Asteroids tumbled around them. Other ships flew too close, their pilots panicking. Danny heard collisions, explosions, screams on the radio. Not everyone would make it out, but many did. Dozens of ships escaped into open space, carrying hundreds of free prisoners. Some turned toward nearby systems. Others jumped to destinations unknown. They were free. The wandering star cleared the asteroid field and slowed to a stop. Danny sat back in his chair and let out a long breath. His hands were shaking. "We saved them," Sarah said. She was crying, green tears running down her scaled face. "We saved so many." "Not all of them," Hala said quietly. "Some did not make it." "But many did," Lyra said. "Because of what we did. Because we tried." Danny looked at his crew. They were exhausted and scared and covered in dust from the station. But they were alive. And they had done something that mattered. What now? Vera asked. Danny thought about it. The station was gone, but the network was bigger than one station. There were others out there, other collectors, other slavers, other people who treated living beings like property. "Now we keep going," he said. "We help the people we rescued find their homes. And then we see what else we can do." "You want to fight them," Zena said. It was not a question. "I want to stop them. However, we can. For as long as we can." Danny looked at each of them. "But only if you want to. This is not your fight. You've already suffered enough." Myra shook her head. "It is exactly our fight. We know what it is like to be taken. We know what it is like to lose everything. If we can stop others from feeling that pain, we must." The others nodded, one by one. Even Plix, the smallest and most scared of them, straightened her back and agreed. "Then we're decided," Danny said. "We're a crew. We're a family. And we're going to make a difference." The wandering star turned toward the nearest safe port. Behind them, the fires of the cradle faded into the darkness of space. Ahead, the universe waited. Full of danger. Full of cruelty. But also full of people who needed help. And a human and 7 alien girls were ready to answer. 1 year had passed since the fall of the cradle. The wandering star flew through space, its engines humming with steady power. The ship was different now. Danny had spent months improving it, adding new systems, fixing old problems, making it stronger and faster than ever before. But the biggest change was not in the ship. It was in the crew. Danny stood on the bridge, looking at the star map on the main screen. Behind him, his family worked at their stations. Lyris handled communications. Vera plotted their course. Zena monitored the sensors. They moved together like parts of a single machine, each one knowing exactly what to do. They had come a long way from the scared strangers who had woken in frozen pods. Now they were a team. Now they were a family. "Message coming in," Lyra said. "It's from the transport ship we helped last week. They made it to the colony safely." Danny smiled. "Good. That's what matters." The wandering star had become known throughout the frontier. They took jobs that other ships would not. They flew to dangerous places. They helped people who had nowhere else to turn. They did not ask for much money. They only asked to be paid fairly. But that was not what made them famous. Word had spread about the cradle. How a single ship had infiltrated a slaver station. How thousands of prisoners had escaped. How a human and 7 alien girls had done the impossible. At first, no one believed it. Humans were supposed to be primitive, barely able to fly between stars. The idea that a human could take down a station that had existed for centuries was laughable. Then the survivors started telling their stories. They spoke of a man who had opened the cages. A man who had told them to run, to fight, to take their freedom back. A man who had asked for nothing in return. The galaxy began to pay attention. "Another request for an interview," Zena said, reading from her screen. "A news network wants to hear your story." Danny shook his head. "Tell him no." We're not doing this for fame. They will keep asking. And we'll keep saying no. It was not that Danny was modest. He simply did not think he had done anything special. He had seen people who needed help. He had helped them. That was all. Any decent person would have done the same, but the other races did not see it that way. To them, humans were strange and confusing. They did not understand why a human would risk his life for strangers. They did not understand why he would turn down money and fame. It did not make sense that Myra found Danny in the observation lounge that evening. He was sitting alone, watching the stars. "You are thinking again," she said. "I can see it on your face. Just wondering if we're making a difference," Danny said. "The cradle is gone, but there are other stations out there. Other slavers. We're just one ship." Myra sat beside him. Her copper fur was soft in the dim light. "Do you remember what you told me when you first woke us up?" "I said a lot of things. You said that you helped us because it was the right thing to do. Not because you expected to win. Not because you knew you would succeed. Just because it was right." Danny nodded slowly. "I remember. That is what makes humans different." Mira looked at him with her golden eyes. "Other species calculate. They ask what they will gain. They weigh the risks against the rewards. But humans, you do not think that way. You see someone in pain and you try to help. Even when it is stupid. Even when it will cost you everything. That doesn't sound like a compliment. It is the highest compliment I know." Myra smiled. "The galaxy is old and tired. The ancient races have seen everything. Nothing surprises them anymore. But humans still believe that one person can make a difference. You still have hope." Danny thought about that. On Earth, he had been nobody. A mechanic with no future. But out here, that did not matter. What mattered was what he chose to do. The comm system beeped. Hal's voice came through the speaker. "Danny, we're picking up a distress signal. A passenger ship caught in an ion storm. They're asking for help." Danny stood up. "How far?" 8 hours at maximum speed. "Set a course." "We're going." He walked to the bridge, Myra falling into step beside him. The others were already at their stations, ready to work. They did not need to be told twice. They knew what to do. The wandering star turned toward the storm. Outside the windows, the stars seemed to glow brighter. "You know," Lyra said, "when you first woke me up, I thought you were strange. A human, all alone, trying to fix a ship that could not be fixed. I thought you were foolish. And now?" Danny asked. Lyra smiled. "Now, I think you are still foolish. But in the best possible way." The others laughed. Danny felt warmth spread through his chest. This was his family now. These 7 women from different worlds, different cultures, different lives. They had found each other in the darkness of an old ship, and they had built something new together. Sierra came up beside him. Her scales had taken on a healthy glow since she had left the pod. "The galaxy is watching us, Danny. They do not understand what we are doing. They do not understand why. Does that matter? It might. If enough people see what we're doing, if enough people hear our story, maybe they'll start to believe that things can change. Maybe they'll start to help too." Danny looked at the star map. Thousands of systems. Millions of worlds. Billions of people. So much suffering. So much pain. One ship could not fix it all, but one ship could start. "We keep doing what we do," Danny said. "We help the people who need us. We fight the battles that need fighting. And we show the galaxy that humans are more than they expected." "And what are humans?" Plix asked. She was sitting at her station, her glowing patterns pulsing softly. Danny thought about his uncle, who had died trying to save strangers. He thought about himself, a mechanic from Nevada who had inherited a broken ship. He thought about all the people throughout human history who had stood up when it would have been easier to stay down. "Humans are stubborn," he said. "We don't give up. We don't accept that things have to be the way they are. We see a problem and we try to fix it, even when everyone tells us it's impossible." He smiled. "We're not the smartest species. We're not the strongest. But we care. And sometimes that's enough." The wandering star flew through the night, carrying its small crew toward another rescue, another battle, another chance to make things right. The galaxy spread out before them, vast and dark and full of danger, but also full of hope, because somewhere in that darkness, a human had proven that one person could make a difference. That kindness was stronger than cruelty, that the smallest ship could carry the biggest heart. The ancient races watched and wondered. They did not understand humans. They probably never would, but they were starting to respect them. And in the quiet spaces between the stars, stories spread. Stories of the wandering star and its crew. Stories of a man who had freed thousands. Stories of alien girls who had become warriors. Stories of what it meant to be human. The universe was old and cold and indifferent. It did not care about justice or mercy or love. But humans cared, and that made all the difference. Danny Cole looked out at the stars and smiled. He was home, not in a place, not in a planet, but in the work he did, the family he had found, and the simple truth that had guided him from the beginning. Help those who need it. Fight for those who cannot fight. Never give up. That was what it meant to be human. And as long as there were humans in the stars, the galaxy would never be the same. The wandering star flew on, its lights glowing in the darkness. A small ship, a strange crew, an impossible mission, but they had already done the impossible once. They would do it again, and again, and again, until the stars themselves learned to hope.